radiation disaster, and nobody seems to care about this because this has to do with private companies. Everybody's talking about climate change and the Paris Accord. What about all this, which is today at hand? Japan is to dump deadly Fukushima nuclear waste into the Pacific Ocean. They don't know what to do with it. They've got so many health problems there. The problems are not only in Japan, they're felt even in the fishing industry on the west coast of the United States 2 to 3 years ago. Japan announced plans to dump about 1 million tons of deadly Fukushima nuclear waste into the Pacific Ocean, saying that they can no longer contain the waste on land. In actuality, it's not 1 million tons, it's just a little bit less. It's 920,000 tons. Following the major tsunami in March of 2011 that resulted in the Daiichi reactors at the Fukushima Daiichi nuclear power plant shutting down, the constant leaking of radiation occurring in the aftermath has been dubbed one of the worst nuclear disasters since Chernobyl, and it's ongoing. NewsTarget.com reports 6 years after the disaster, the 3 crippled reactors are still leaking water with high levels of radiation into the Pacific Ocean. Though the Pacific Ocean is a vast stretch of water, Fukushima's radiation is reaching the coast of the United States, Canada, and Mexico, all of the West, containing the fish we eat, contaminating the fish we eat and the water that we swim in. Well, I, for one, and a lot of people that I know, no longer buy products of the Pacific Ocean, no fish of the Pacific Ocean, as much as we can. And we know that it also spreads towards the other side, west of the Pacific, towards the Indian Ocean. But what can we do? The shellfish and the fish of the Indian Ocean, I confess, I do eat. As long as we can. You know, this is terrible. It's reaching the whole world. So, contaminating fish we eat and the water we swim in. While these findings were first considered fake news and laughed away, researchers can no longer deny that cesium-134, the so-called fingerprint of Fukushima, has been found in seawater and fish along the western coast of the Americas. In TRT's daily news show Insight, hosted by former Sky News presenter Martin Stanford, the head of International Atomic Energy Agency called on the world to help with the cleanup of Fukushima site. Who would touch that? I mean, you go in there, you're dead. Every machine, every product that goes in there can't come out. If it does, it's forever radioactive, and everywhere where it's stored is radioactive contamination. Japan fails to clean up the mess, plotting to discharge nuclear waste into the ocean. That's criminal. Of course, what can they do? I mean, it's an island. What are they going to do? I mean, their people already have the effects of cancer and leukemia everywhere. Ever since the tsunami put in the Fukushima plant out of business, one of the ongoing core tasks has been to cool the reactors and prevent the release of highly contaminated water leaking from these 3 units. Though it has been 6 years since that disaster, the cleanup is making slow progress. I would venture to say no progress whatsoever. Mark Whitby, the chairman and design director of the engineering consulting firm WME Consultants, explained that today about 400 tons of water go into each reactor to cool it. Part of the highly radioactive water is recycled to recool the reactors, and the rest goes back into the tanks, which are stacking up at a fast rate. As reported by TRT, Japan is running out of storage space. There are currently about 1,000 storage tanks holding 920,000 tons of this contaminated water. As if the marine life isn't struggling enough already by the vast amounts of plastic in the oceans, and the Japanese are now talking about dumping all these contaminated waters and these tanks with nuclear wastewater directly into the Pacific Ocean because they cannot keep building and storing these reservoirs. This would be told TRT. Well, they should keep building and storing. They should. Also, to this day, researchers are uncertain whether the melted cores are still within the contaminated structure, or if they've been burrowing through the vessels, contaminating the groundwater that ends up in the Pacific Ocean. Since many robots sent out to assess the damage have been destroyed due to the high levels of radiation. I mean, the robots are destroyed. You can imagine what that would do to a human in a couple of minutes. The robots are destroyed because of high levels of radiation that melts their electronics. It is tough to get this information. You can imagine how terrible and devastating this is. It's a curse. It's a God-given, allowed curse because of our sins. We all have to help stop this, because otherwise we're all doomed by it. Recently, however, one camera lasted long enough. Okay, thank God. It lasted long enough to show that molten core debris has burned through the bottom of the inner reactor wall. The radioactive debris is now burrowing deep into the foundation of the reactor, causing the highest radiation levels measured around the reactor since the triple core meltdown 6 years ago. Until these cores can be retrieved, well, who's going to retrieve them? What is going to retrieve them? Until they can be retrieved, the reactors will keep leaking radioactive material into the groundwater. According to Japan's former Prime Minister, the current Prime Minister, Shinzo Abe, is lying about the situation being under control. Abe has also been criticized by forcing more than 6,000 people to return to their home in areas that are still highly contaminated zones. According to the Japanese government, Japan will be safe by 2020. What a lie. You see, of course, they're so hard up because of the fact that, what can they do? They want life to go on as normal, and the fact is that it cannot go on as normal. So according to the Japanese government, it will hold the Olympic baseball and softball in Fukushima. Who's going to go to attend? They're going to hold the Olympic baseball and softball games in the Fukushima area to show and to prove that Japan is cool, even if the reactors are still posing a serious threat. This is totally incomprehensible. You can watch for more information, the embedded video here. This is by Sean Adeltabatabai on your Newswire. It's about a 16-minute video.